Just to recap, you're talking about feeding the animals the leftover chametz on Erev Pesach because, unlike what you'll find in the luach, the Chazal assume that after you can't eat the chametz, which is usually around 10:30 in the morning here in Jerusalem, you still have an hour to do stuff with your chametz, okay, before you have to burn it, which was kind of surprising. But yes, during that hour, that's when you could sell it to the guy, and that's when you could feed it to the animals or do what else you have to do. And then comes 11:30, that's when you start burning the chametz. And Mr. Sakovitz was kind of surprised because our entire lives we thought, no, that was a deadline. And in Achinami, if I would eat breakfast at 8 and have my pita left over, I could then burn it and Shalom Al Yisrael, I'm done 3 hours early. But that's not what seems to be what the Chazal are saying anywhere. As to throw on another source that seems to hold the way we see in the Gemara, you can look in the Aruch HaShulchan where he points out the same thing. The Aruch HaShulchan says, and then when it comes the beginning of the 6th hour, at the end of the 5th hour, what you and I call about 11:30, that's when we'll start to burn the chametz. That's when we'll start burning the chametz, and then we burn it before chatzos. How long does it take to burn chametz? Not that long, apparently. You get it done within an hour. So we saw that the Gemara over here was wondering what's the difference that between the halacha telling me I could feed the chametz to my animals as opposed to the wild animals. Well, you shouldn't. Why are you feeding certain wild animals? There's certain chayas that a person does feed. We also lets them out a little bit more. Sorry, they have a little bit more freedom. What's the nafkamina? What kind of chayos will a person have? What kind of behemoths? Well, behemoths are cattle and sheep and goats, and maybe even a horse. I was going to think soos and a horse, so it's horse. A horse and a donkey. Those are his behemoths, and his chayas that he might have would include, well, anything exotic that he might own, and a dog. A dog is not a behemoth. Why does he have a dog? Because you need a dog for protection and to help you keep track of your sheep. Yes, Jews used to have dogs. David HaMelech had dogs. As a matter of fact, you couldn't work as a shepherd if you did not have a dog. And also, we've been living symbiotically with cats forever. Why do you need cats around? To keep away vermin. Okay? Nowadays, there's some place you go where they'll kick your daughter out of the Beis Yaakov because your family has a dog as a pet or cat or something like that. Yes, there is, and there's stories about this. Why? Not a Yiddish thing to have an animal to take care of. You have too many mouths to feed anyways. But that's not exactly historically true. You need these animals. There's a reason why cats live around us, and we benefit from them just like we benefit from dogs. So it says that if a person were to feed his animals chametz, that's good because anything that's left over, you'll see it, you'll be able to get rid of it. And the chiddush of teaching someone that he could also feed his wild type animals is that if those animals make the food disappear, he can't see it, how are you supposed to get rid of it? No, if they disappeared the food, if they disappeared it in a way that you're not going to be chayav for bal yorei bal yamatzu. They probably put it somewhere where it's not your business anyways, it's out of your rishos, and you can't get to it. Hold on one second. We're going to mute everybody just in case. Okay, so I hope that clears that up. And the ophos, it's not talking about feeding the pigeons, at least the wild pigeons in the park. It means actually feeding the pigeons that he has in his dovecote, okay? Or feeding the chickens or the ducks, whatever he might have, depending where he lives. Jews historically in this country have cultivated what animals? Doves, pigeons, and chickens. And those are the ones that people had. Dovecote you keep in a certain place, and chickens you keep in the yard, and we benefit from that. So it says here that there were other things that the Mishnah talked about. For example, selling the chametz to the goy, mochro the goy, or nachri akum, whichever one you have. What is the chiddush of that? Well, when Chazal and the Rambam talk about selling the chametz to the goy, Mitch tell the guy that we're in, everything's good, because he's wondering if we're logged in. When they were talking about selling the chametz to the goy, they meant an actual sale. You sell the chametz to the goy, it's an act. There's no strings attached. There's no contract. Here, you want this bread, and the guy intends to eat it, whatever he's going to do with it. The massive chametz sale that is arranged by the chief rabbinate and the state, or the badats, or the rabbi in Teaneck, that's not what they were talking about. And that's something that's a little bit more questionable. The Vilna Gaon didn't like it because it was fictitious, like anything that's fictitious. The Heter Mechira, and well, the Vilna Gaon didn't live to see the Heter Mechira for Shemitah, but it's along the same lines as a fictitious sale, and the Vilna Gaon classically didn't like the Heter Iska, right? What's a Heter Iska? Oh, it allows you somehow to take interest. So no, he didn't think that that was legitimate either. But this isn't what Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel were talking about. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel were talking about an actual, no strings attached, actual sale. And it says that it's pshita that if you could feed the animals, so you'd also be able to uh, sell it to a Gentile. You could transact with it. It could be a mutual benefit. So the Gemara says pshita. Isn't that obvious? What is the chiddush here? La afuke mehai tana desanya. Okay. It's actually to exclude the opinion that we found in this brisa. What does it say? Beis Shammai omrim lo yikor adam chametzo l'nochri elim kein yodea bo sheyechle kodem pesach. If you want to sell the chametz to the Gentile, you still have to make sure that he himself will finish it off before Passover. Why? What's the problem if the Gentile has the chametz on Passover? Well, no. Well, so why is Beis Shammai machmir for that? Yeah, you have to ask a question of Beis Shammai. Rashi says, "Kodem shevo haPesach de kasavri mitzvah la v'varo min olam v'lo sheyeh kayam." They hold. Rashi could have said because you're afraid the Gentile will sell it back to the Jew, or I don't know what it might be. But here Rashi says the last line in Rashi on Kaf Amud Aleph. Rashi says you have to sell before Passover. They felt that really the mitzvah is to destroy the chametz, and it shouldn't be kayam. So why am I selling the chametz to the guy? Because I'm hoping that somehow the guy will eat it, burn it, feed it to his animals before Passover starts. I'm basically outsourcing my responsibility to destroy this chametz to the guy. Okay, that's how Beis Hillel or Beis Shammai are thinking about this according to Rashi, which means what? Wait, you had a question about that? It's kind of surprising. Yeah, what does Rashi say on Daf Daled?
Rashi says that Hashbisu is a din of Hashbisu is bittul, right?
Sagi b'vidl. Sagi.
Sagi b'vidl.
Yeah, believe. Yeah.
So famous machlokas between Rashi and Tosfos, whether there's a kum asay of Hashbisu that I have to destroy from it, or the chametz has to be destroyed. Meaning, I don't have to own it.
And you're working within Beis Hillel's opinion.
So Beis Shammai.
Here we're just playing Beis Shammai. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beis Shammai's opinion. Why can't it hold like Beis Shammai? Why doesn't Beis Shammai says you have to destroy it? So that's how Rashi understands it.
Yeah,
to destroy the chametz.
You mitzvah.
Your responsibility. Yeah. I can't give it over to the guy.
Well, I can't because I don't know if the guy will do it. You know. Okay. That's why. Well, so he says there, Elim Kain bo yodea bo. Okay, you're certain that this guy will take the take it.
So in other words, if you sell it with a provision in the contract that the guy will destroy it by a certain hour.
They're not talking about contracts and things. They're talking about simple exchange of, silver for bread. Okay, not basically yodeabo. Yodeabo means that for some reason the Jew has confidence that this guy will eat it or get rid of it. Why? Because the guy says, "I want breakfast right now." He shows up at your store for whatever reason. The guy here, they have, let's say, the restaurant that's doing its last chametz sale. The pizza store will be open until 9 a.m. on Erev Pesach and sell pizzas. So all the Jews are coming there. He knows all these Jews intend to eat this pizza either right now or they're going to burn it by noon, right? Because everybody burns their chametz by noon. But a non-Jewish fellow walks in. Does he have the same confidence that he'll eat this pizza right now for breakfast or get rid of it? Okay. Well, if the guy says yes, every day he comes in and eats one slice of pizza, so it's yodeabo. But if he comes in and says, "I want some pies, I'm having a party sometime later," you're closing shop today. I know you're closing at 9 and I need pizzas for my party tomorrow. So then you shouldn't be selling it to the guy according to Beis Shammai. Yeah, then you yodeabo that he is not going to be getting rid of it. That's Beis Shammai. But Beis Hillel says, Kol sha'a shemutar le'achol mutar limkor. It doesn't really matter. I sell it to the guy. I don't have to start looking what the guy's doing. We're letting in more people. We're going to jump to the next page. Okay. Please stay with us. Let's fold this up. Oh, it takes a long time to load that. Okay. And who else has an opinion there? So we heard Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, Omer, kutach, v'chol minei kutach, asur limklor shloshim yom kodem la Pesach. This is a very popular opinion. Once it's 30 days within Passover, I guess Purim time, so now you can't sell kutach and other things that are like that. Okay, kol minei kutach. What's unique about kutach? Kutach, we normally say it's dairy. But in this case, it's not that it's a dairy product that's the problem. Kutach has apparently breadcrumbs in it. I know that there are people around here who try to come up with all sorts of ways. They're experimenting how to make bread like they used to do. They use the Rambam's recipe. They try to make menachos. And there are people here who know how to bake menachos. They know how to bake lechem apanim. I went to a workshop. The lady baked barcheshes, okay, and machavas, the mincha that are not mafei tanur, but the ones that are fried. It was actually kind of good. You can't eat so much of it. I can understand why the Kohanim might not have, everybody just takes a kazayas thereof. It's very fattening. But no one I know has tried to recreate kutach. Okay? There's no demand for it and no one's there. But apparently this is what they used to eat. So what's the, what? Well, whatever. People eat all sorts of, gvina levana that they sell here, which is not available in America. It's the French fromage blanc, is basically a soured type of milk. It's just milk and salt with the, you grow it the right way. And all sorts of horrible French cheeses that have colors and things growing in them. So why not kutach? I don't know. By the way, the kutach has bread. So Rashi says, Nosrim bo perure lechem, v'asur mishum chametz. And it also says, shloshim yom. Why? 30 days. I can't even sell kutach 30 days before Passover. What's the concern? Dispirule kevei shamai. He holds like Beis Shammai. You can't even sell it to the guy because you have a responsibility to, the mitzvah is to destroy it. V'zeh eno nechal maher. And this is long lasting, similar to certain other dairy products that we have today. So the din would, according to Rabbi Yehuda, apply to, I don't know, what kind of cheese do you buy? A big wheel of cheese, something European perhaps. V'zeh eno nechal, she'en ochlinoto ela matbilin bo. Remember, how much kutach can you actually eat? They're just dipping it. Anyways. V'hani shloshim yom, misha shechalav chovat biur, misha shoalin bilchot pesach. And he holds that this concern that now you have to get rid of your chametz starts when you start asking the questions about Pesach, 30 days before. Is Pesach day 30 or is Pesach day 31? Okay. Apparently this would be a din. Normally, just Shloshim Yom, no one starts learning about Pesach on Purim or Shushan Purim, so I guess it even starts the day after Shushan Purim, which is technically 28 days. Okay. Let's see. What's the next thing? So this is Rabbi Yehuda ben Beser's opinion, and when the Mishnah says, and it's mutter to sell the chametz to the guy, it's la'afuke, actually two opinions. Okay, certainly Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, and Beis Shammai if you don't know what the guy is going to be doing with the chametz, and it's mutter bahana. Oh, this is a big one, mutter bahana. So normally things are forbidden to be eaten. If something has an isser hana'ah tacked onto it, what does that mean? Well, I can't just eat it. I can't sell it. Okay? I can't get any benefit from it. Usually, yes. Usually the heter isser hana'ah is a ribui in that the forbidden substance cannot be sold because now I can get money for it, or I can't even give it to my animals because my animals don't have an isser achila. There's nothing telling my animals what they can and cannot eat, right? But in this case, the hana, I get benefit from my animals being fuel. So there's an isser hana there. And we're going to see shortly that sometimes there might be an overlap. If I were to take, let's say, oil and rub it on my skin, I highly recommend everybody take this into account. In the olden days, they didn't have all sorts of topical ointments and moisturizers and things. They just used olive oil mostly, and sometimes lanolin, which comes from wool. And it's not you don't have to even shech the animal to get it. So there's a kashrus on that. And coconut oil if they had, basically vegetable oils. But nowadays they make all these different products which are very artificial. It's the equivalent, if it's the difference between drinking wine or water as opposed to, let's say, Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola is basically a pharmaceutical and all sorts of ingredients that you don't know what's in there and a lot of processed things, or kal vachomer, any of those sugary drinks that come in the funny shaped bottles, right? So what would you rather drink? So too, what are you putting on your skin? Just plain old olive oil or this concoction with about 100 different ingredients? And in order to decipher it, you need a degree in chemistry. Okay, so I wouldn't put anything of that anywhere on my skin, and they did that. So the question is, what about oil? Olive oil. I could eat olive oil, it's kosher. Can I apply it to my skin? I guess I could. But what if I wanted to take something that was forbidden to eat? Can I apply it to my skin? The olive oil is teva, or the olive oil is somehow forbidden in some way. Can I apply it to my skin? It's not an Isser Hana, so I'm getting some sort of benefit, right? But then again, maybe the act of putting this olive oil on my skin is similar to ingesting the olive oil, right? You've heard this about the sugya. We're going to get into it. It's coming up soon. So that's just something to keep in mind. Sicha kishtia. Did Chazal say sicha kishtia? Does the Shulchan Aruch say that? Does the Rambam say that? The question is, in which circumstances? Well, Yom Kippur, certainly in Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur that's an inui, Yom Kippur, sicha is inherently forbidden. Mashma, that if it's not Yom Kippur, so there's nothing wrong with sicha necessarily, I don't tell you to take off your shoes. There's nothing wrong with using, let's say, your shoes were, if they're leather, they're made from an animal. That animal probably wasn't shechted properly, so it's nevela or treifa, right? But you're getting benefit from those shoes. Okay, so we'll see. Rabbeinu Tam has his opinion. It's quite amazing, and the Vilna Gaon has his. We'll get to that. Mutter ba'ana pshita. What's the chiddush that I could still get benefit from the chametz from the time when it becomes forbidden to eat until the time when I have to burn it? Well, it's richa. Here's why the Mishnah mentioned this. Shecharacho kodem zmano. He singed it before the final time, before the deadline. The Kamash Balan comes to teach us Kid Rava, like Rava said. What did Rava say? Damar Rava characho kodem zmano mutar bahana'a afilu la'achar zmano. If you already singed it on time, so now it's fuel. Now it's like a coal. You can continue using it after that time. What is the nafkamina here? The Rav is implying that, let's say I had a loaf of bread, okay? Large loaf of bread, a lot of calories. If I needed to, let's say, cook something on Erev Pesach, so I need firewood. And my son found a loaf of bread at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Erev Pesach. I already bottled it somehow or other. Really not at fault for not discovering this loaf of bread before. It was in some sort of hiding spot. Okay, I'm a complete unus. And now it's my responsibility to burn this bread after the time. And I say, well, I got to fire up the oven. I have firewood. Why don't I add this bread to the fire? Right? That's the idea of burning it la'achar zmano. Right?
That's what it means.
No, I'm just giving you an example. So this bread I would not be able to use. Why? Because it's achar zmano. I shouldn't be getting a benefit from this bread. But if I had started burning the bread on time, it had been discovered with everything else, and I already, made it nice and black on the outside. So now this bread can be part of the fuel in the oven that I'm using after the Zman Isser, when the chametz becomes forbidden. Yeah. What does Rashi say? Asha shemuter lechol koi. Okay, muter ba'ana, so that's when we could eat it. And he also said it's pshita because I could sell the chametz, right? Why can't I burn it and get some benefit from the burning? And Rashi says, "V'hai muter ala achar zman koi l'kon shecharacho be'ur yafeh kodem zmano shebitil tamo umarito." The bread is sufficiently burnt. There's still a lot of burn left in the bread, but it's not bread anymore. Still fuel. So I could technically use that. Yeah, this doesn't come up that often, by the way. What? This doesn't come up that often because we don't use firewood or chametz to fuel our ovens anymore.
It comes up this is the definition of chametz muksha?
No.
No.
Chametz muksha, it's still there. You can still see its form. Like Rashi says here, bitel tamo umaritho. Chametz muksha means it's just become hardened. Maybe it's a little bit moldy, but there's still parts that taste like bread and still look like bread.
Definition.
Chametz muksha.
That's chametz that's no longer edible.
Okay, well, this is beyond that. Okay? Chametz nukshe literally means hardened chametz. Okay?
Yeah.
Basically that a person could technically eat it, but will not eat it. Okay? Technically eat it, will not eat it. And then the next stage is me'achilas kelev. Even a dog won't eat it. And Rashi's not even talking about it. Well, no, that's beyond chametz nukshe. Okay, fine. I know, but I'm giving the general opinion here. And Rashi here is talking about something that's beyond eino roi la'achilas kelev. He's talking about something that has already undergone, it don't taste like bread anymore. It doesn't even look like bread anymore. It's just a lump of black that still has burn in it, and can still burn and be used for fire. And once upon a time, it was bread. Yeah.
I don't see the distinction.
Well, it's a fine distinction, but it exists. I guess we could get different loaves of bread here and see different stages of, chametz nuksha, how still and
about something that's not really looking as kelev.
it's beyond not roy lachios kelev. It's only burnt all around the outside. Okay.
So what's the chiddush?
The chiddush here is
and that's less than this, and that's permissible to keep on Pesach.
No, you can't. Here it says getting hana from it.
You can get hana from chametz nuksha.
No, not necessarily. In certain cases, it has to be considered no longer chametz. Like what they used to do is they use the glue to make the svarim. Chametz glue. Now it's a safer. It's not chametz anymore. Or it is a loaf of bread, but it's so hard, it's basically petrified, and I use it as a stool. This is not something that is like that. I just burnt it, and my goal was before the sof zman to burn it. Correct? Chametz burning. And this is the same chametz that's meant to be burned. I'm just now thinking, hey, I could get some benefit from the fact that it's burning right now. Yeah. What's the nafkamina? Let's say you go to your bonfire where they're burning chametz, right? And you have some, I don't know, you're going to toast some weenies like on the campfire. So as long as the chametz is still mutter ba'ana, you could toast your hot dog over that fire. But the second the chametz becomes asur ba'ana, you can't use that fire anymore for your own purposes. Unless everything in the fire has already gotten sufficiently burned that it no longer has, like Rashi says, its taste and its appearance. By the way, not everybody agrees with Rashi over here. There's you see there's a footnote there? I don't know which edition of the Gemara you're using there. Okay? Okay, yeah. He says that maybe this is Isser de Rabbanan, for example. Okay. Where are we? Avar's mano asur ba'anaso. What's the chiddush here? We already knew this. Pshita. Lo tzricha. L'sha'oth de Rabbanan. There's also the times when the rabbi said it's forbidden. Okay? There's the biblical standard, and there's the rabbinic standard. Amar Rav Gidol, Amar Rav Chia Bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hamakadish b'shei sha'oth u'lamala, afilu b'chite kordanitha, ein chosheshin l'kiddushin. Okay? The sages institute that these things should be forbidden in Hana. Chite kordanitha is some sort of inferior wheat. And the chiddush here is that if a person were to do the act of kiddushin, betroth a woman, normally to the effect of betrothal, he has to give over to the woman something of minimal value, right? In front of witnesses. Hareyat mikudeshesli bechite hani chite, with these wheats, and kidath Moshe v'Yisrael. So the fact that the sages said, no, you can't, there's no benefit available from these chametz inferior wheats, means that the kiddushin doesn't even count. Okay.
You wouldn't be able to do anything with it either.
Yeah. Yes. That's why. Okay. So it's basically pointless.
No value for them.
Yep. Yeah.
So the chiddush is that midiraisa,
Yeah. Midiraisa would.
it
Would.
Yeah.
So we're saying midiraisa she's mekudesh, midirabanan she's not.
Yeah. The sages didn't allow it. And can sages do that? Yes. There's a rule. The sages decided. Well, the sages decided kinu kiddushaihu. Okay. The sages can just nullify the kiddushin. They say when kiddushin happens, and they say when it doesn't happen. Oh yeah, okay. V'lo yasikbo tanur v'chirayim. And once it's forbidden, cannot use the chametz as fuel. Okay, tanur and kirayim. Tanur is something that was used to actually bake things directly, and kirayim means box with fire in it, but there's holes on top to put in the pots. So it wasn't for directly heating food or cooking the food. What's the chiddush here? Pshita. Oh, here tzricha. The Rav Yehuda. The Amar ein biur chametz ella sreifa. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda is the one who said that the only real way you could get rid of your chametz is through actual burning. Okay? Salkadaita chamina, you would have thought, Hoyel v'amar Rabbi Yehuda mitzvato b'sreifa. Rabbi Yehuda says the mitzvah is dafka burning it. Bahadi kasarifle lithani minei. So if I'm doing the right thing and burning my chametz, I should at least get some benefit out of it, doing a mitzvah, right? Kamash malan, if you're doing like Rabbi Yehuda, you still cannot benefit from burning your chametz after the zman, even though you're doing the right thing. Okay, it seems that apparently if you were to grind it up and throw it to the wind or toss it into the sea, there's no way you can actually have some sort of recovery of the value or the potential benefit from this chametz. Okay, we're going to jump now because we got to Chizkiah. I want to go to page, Kaf Daled Amud Beis, with your permission. Well, he told me I'm allowed to do this, so, I'm going to. And we're going to talk more about the Isser Hana. We're going to see some Gemaras, and we're also going to get some halachic conclusions, and also see what the OU and everybody else has to say about that. With regards to the Sikha Kashtia thing, which we're going to get to soon, the usual kashrus organizations first have to tell you what with the substance. Are they going to allow something to be sold with a kosher certification on it? That's the first thing that you have to worry about. That's their problem. But once someone,
say it again.
The kashrus organizations, it's their issue what gets their stamp. Okay, the lanolin, the beef tallow, the stearic acid, whatever it might be. Okay, something derived from pig. Whether or not it will get a kosher certification, that's one question. The second question is, what are you going to do with it? Because they could technically come up with something that's kosher, but then you have in your house, they don't know if you're doing it right. The biggest nafkamina, I remember I told you about this, my argument with the Rabbanut at the hotel, the kashrus, they had available for people to make tea. They had an urn. Everybody has one of these gigantic urns, holds 50 liters or whatever it might be. And it's on Shabbos mode. So the water in there is quite hot, hot enough. Maybe it's not a rolling boil, but it's good enough. And, the Chafetz Chaim wrote the Mishnah Berurah. He said, you can't take a raw tea bag and put that in your cup and pour boiling hot water directly onto it. That's bishul on Shabbos, kalei bishul. Most people know this, right? Or at least they're machmir for such a thing. Instead, they tell you have to have hot tea essence. Let's say you do like a lot of people, you take Louisa tea, right?
What?
Louisa. Okay, it's basically the leaves from a local bush called Louisa. It has a lemony taste. They give this to you in restaurants. They give you fresh leaves from some sort of bush or tree or Sheba or many other local varieties, and they put it directly into a cup and they pour roskin onto it. Irui kuli rishon. That cooks the thing. Really, you shouldn't be doing that on Shabbos. But at this hotel, they made this available for everybody. Here is freshly cut Louisa and Nana, which is mint, right? And there's an urn right there, and everybody's putting it directly into cups and pouring boiling hot water directly onto it. Okay, these tea leaves are fresh. They were cut yesterday. They haven't been processed in any way. They haven't been dehydrated with heat. They haven't been pre-boiled. They're just there. How could such a thing be allowed on Shabbos? So,
Wait a second.
yeah.
How can it be allowed? It's not allowed.
No. Hold on. But they're making it available for everybody. Now, the tea leaves are kosher.
They have to worry about the ignorance of the people.
Yeah, that's the answer they gave. There's the kashrus of the substance. The tea leaves, those are kosher. The water is kosher. But we're not there to ensure that what people are doing with them is permissible on Shabbos. Okay, so what they're supposed to know is that according to some opinions, which is not the Chafetz Chaim or others, which is that if it's a kli sheni or shlishi or whatever, then I could put the leaves into there. How many people are actually doing that? Unfortunately, no one there was doing that. Anybody who knows. But even then, like we pointed out, if you're quickly putting it from kli rishon, that's the urn, into a sheni and then to a shlishi, but it's still very, very hot, and you haven't let it cool off, it could be, who cares, a kli shishi. As long as you're getting the result you want from the very hot water, it's still a problem. Okay?
Moshe permits a cliche.
Yeah.
And time permits a cliche.
Yeah.
You're always somebody to rely on.
Yeah, there's always so much to rely on, but the problem is they weren't doing that. So I'd expect the hotel not to trip people up. So there's what you're doing, and then there's what the kashrus organizations. That's the limit of what they're going to do. Okay, and the Badat says other ones also. What are you going to do? But really, I don't think they should be putting this in front of people. Instead, they should have the waiter serving people out of a kli rishon, or give people kli sheni or something. But yeah, like the rabbi put up a note telling people how to use the mikveh. There's a kela mikveh, and most people are not just getting little things wrong. So a little bit of hashkacha, but what are you going to do? So let's talk about this. Oh, I didn't put this on the page. I'm sorry. Hatzaga. Okay. Everybody wants a piece of me. Let's talk about Isser Hana. Okay. So I guess fasten your seatbelts. What does it say here? It's Omar Rabbi Abahu, and it's on Kaf Daled Amud Beis. It's across from where Tosfos says the Rabbos Emurim. Okay. Rabbi Abahu says, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Yisurin Shabbat Torah, Ein Lo Kin Alihan, Ela Derech Achilathon. Okay. Any Isser in the Torah, a person is not lashed for violating them or using them, eating them, unless he consumed them derech achilathon, okay, the way he's supposed to eat them, okay, the normal way of consuming the food. Okay, now that's actually a good way because if somehow, let's say, a person were to not chew the food and swallow it, or eat it raw, for example, so that's not the derech of eating it, so he would not get lashed. Talking about pork, for example, Isser in the Torah, something forbidden. He didn't eat it the normal way, so he is not to be held liable for it. It was still forbidden. Okay? Every time we have a p'tur from punishment after the fact, it does not mean that lichatchila before the fact something was permitted. But that's what Rabbi Bo is saying. And they say lima'ute mai. So what would this exclude? Amar Rav Shimi Barashi lima'ute shimacha chelev chai shepatur. If a person were to eat chelev chai, that means raw chelev. What is chelev? Has anybody here seen chelev? What does chelev look like? Chelev looks like a steak. Okay, a steak. Okay, when you go to the butcher shop, there are certain parts that are fat and certain parts that are very muscly and meaty. It so happens that which the Torah declares to be the chelev has both also. Okay? It looks almost physically indistinguishable. Only the only person who's trained what sections of the cow and the goat are chelev knows to remove the chelev. Be a kohen in the Beis Hamikdash. This was important. Why? The chelev is what's burned on the mizbeach from your the shlomim and the chatas. Whereas the rest of the meat, you have to eat that. Okay, you can't just say, well, it looks like chelev. Then you throw away the entire cow, the entire bull as it may be. So the derech of eating chelev, like any other meat, let's say you're a guy, is by eating it. It's not considered normal to take a steak and just eat it straight up. It's not derech eretz. It's not the way people eat things. So if a person were to eat chelev according to this opinion, in a way that the chelev is still raw, unroasted, for example, then he would be exempt from punishment. Normally, the punishment for eating chelev is what? Kares. Okay, but the solution is lashes. Why do we lash him? He's getting kares anyways. No. If he were to get lashes by the Beis Din for his infraction, he will not face kares in the next world. So lashes is a benefit, okay? At least for people who violate certain prohibitions, which is why they wanted to reinstitute the smicha. You look this up in the history books in the Beis Yosef's time. They saw that one of the advantages of having a Sanhedrin is not Zionism, but rather, if we have an actual Beis Din that could flog people for doing these types of sins, we'd be saving them from the kares in the next world. It's a pretty good deal. Okay. Ikadamri, another understanding of this, or another report of what Rabbi Abahu said. Amar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Yisurim Shabbat Torah, Ein Lokin Alihan, Ela Derech Hana'athon. Oh, it's slightly different. Okay, the normal way of getting benefit from it. That is, any Isser in the Torah, not just Isser Hana'ah, but Stam Isser. Pig is just the Isser Achila, no Isser Hana'ah from pig. All right? So,
Isser, it has to do with achila.
yes, Kol Yisurim.
Not Kol Yisurim Shabbat.
Yeah, Kol Yisurim. Yeah, that, like it's not talking about arayos, for example. It's talking about Isser Achila. Okay, but a person's only liable for an Isser Achila if he did it derech hana'athon, which seems to be a more general description than derech achilathon, right? It's implying that even though it's an Isser Achila, there are other ways to benefit from it that are not Achila. And that would be perfectly normal. I put a note here. The implication from the next daf is that derech hana'athon includes more than ingestion. Okay? More than ingestion. This is once again opening the door for sicha kishtia. Let's have a message from Rabbeinu Rambam about this. He says in Machos Asuros, the 8th parak, halacha tesvav. Kol makom shenemar b'Torah lo tochal, or lo tochelu, lo yochelu, lo ye'achel, shall not be eaten. Echad isser achila, the echad isser hana'a b'mashmach.
That's the Gemara that we just.
Yeah. So that's why I'm reading here. Really, the Rambam says default. It says in the Torah, you shall not eat, thou shalt not eat, it shall not be eaten, they shall not eat, etc. It means not eat and not get hana. Wow, that's pretty general. So anyway, it says about pig lo yechlu. Ad sheyifrot lecha kathuv kederek shepireit bin vela. Until then, you get some more additional information from the pasuk, like it did with nevela. I could get benefit from nevela. What is nevela? Nevela means animal died, could have been kosher, but it died without kosher slaughter, or the kosher slaughter was botched. Treifa means it got mauled by some other animal, or I found some sort of critical blemish after the shtita. Big nafkamina. Treifa, if I shechted it properly, but I find it's not kosher on the inside, so it's not tameh. But nevela is tameh. Okay? Yeah, a nevela is tameh. So big nafkamina if it's a nevela or a treifa. But in this case, you still get some benefit from nevela. What do you do with the nevela? What does it say you should do with the nevela? You recoup your losses. How does the slaughterhouse deal with this? It's a whole animal. What do they do? It says with nevela, ger asher b'sharecha titanenu v'achala. You could give it to the ger toshav, because he does not have to keep kosher. He is a Gentile, so you could sell it to him. Yeah, it's not. You're not going to get the same profit you would have gotten had you sold it to the kosher slaughterhouse or sold it in the kosher meat marketplace, but at least you could recoup some of your loss. It says about chalev from chulin at least. So you can't eat the chalev, you can't eat the dam, but with the chalev at least, it says do some malacha with it. What malacha can you do with chalev? Well, you could render the chalev and make tallow. Okay, that's what they used to do. Or once again, because now they told me I could use it for my own malacha, I could also sell it to the Gentile fellow, and he could eat it or do whatever he wants with it. And it says, paresh b'Torah sheba'al peh shehu mutar b'hanaya. Or you have an explicit permission in the oral tradition, Torah sheba'al peh, that you could get hana from this, like pig. Okay? You could go in shkatzim, uramasim, vidam, using bugs. Shkatzim, uramasim. Those are not kosher, but technically speaking, you could use bugs for your purposes. What did they used to use bugs for? What purpose can you get to use bugs? Well, if you're certain agricultures use bees for pollination, and other bugs were used for dyes. Okay, most importantly, the tolat shani, the crimson red, comes from bugs. Okay, techeles and argaman comes from a sea remes or a sea sheretz. It's not kosher. You cannot eat a chilazon. Most chalzonos are totally forbidden. How many lashes would you get, or how many sets of lashes would you get for taking a chilazon out of the Mediterranean and eating it for breakfast? 4 or 5, whatever it might be. But you can use those, you could catch them, and you could breed them, and you could use them to dye expensive cheles and argaman. So there is benefit from this. Or dam and avram and achai, the gid hanashek. You come up with something to do with the blood from animals in the slaughterhouse. What do they do with gid hanashek? I don't know. They use it to tie things. It used to be they use gidim to tie things as ties. Nowadays, most things are made out of synthetics. Shekol el buturim ba'nayam b'piyav ha'kabbalah. Afal pi shehein asurin ba'achila. Okay, so all these things forbidden to eat, but you could get hana from them because either the pasuk said explicitly, or we have an explicit tradition allowing it. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. The Rambam continues: Kol ma'achal shehu asur b'hanaya, anything that's forbidden to get hana from, im ne'aneh v'lo achal. Somehow he got benefit from it, but he did not eat it. Kigon shemachar o natan legoy o lechlavim. He transacted with the guy, or he used it to feed his dogs, for example. That's hana, eino lo keh. So he will not get lashed for this. The isra hana, still he has to use it himself, but he can't do other hana. He'll be off the hook. But makinoto makaf marduth, the sages will still give him lashes because he's rebellious. Va'adamim mutarim, and the money that he got for this, he could do what he wants with the money. V'chol davar she'asur b'achila mutar b'hanaya. Let's say you have something that's isser achila, mutar hana. The classic case once again, chalev, dam, chazer, if you have that. Afa pi shehu mutar b'hanaya. Even though you could technically get some benefit from this, Asur la'asot bo sichara l'chavein malachto b'dvarim asurin kutz min ha'chelev shneimar yaseh l'chol melacha. You cannot go into business in the pork business or the blood business, whatever it might be. Okay? That's misleading people. So why is chelev an exception? By the way, it says chelev, you can use it. Because chelev, you have no choice. When you have an animal, okay, you get a certain amount of dam and chelev. The dam, well, that flows out and you have to remove it and you salt it. The dam's a loss. There's no way you can recover it. But you get a certain quantity of chelev, even if you did this beheter. So it says you could use the chelev. All the other isurim, chazer and shkatzim and ramasim, you have no business selling those. Okay? You lechatchila went out of your way. There's no reason why you should be raising a pig. There's no reason why you should be slaughtering the pig. Oh, you say it gives you good leather. I'm in the football business. You want to be in the leather business, you could get better leather from kosher behemoths. You'll get more of it. There's no reason to be in the pig business. Okay, so now that we've seen this, we keep these klalim in mind. They'll help us understand the ensuing Gemara. What, you're not happy with something, Mr. Saknovitz? No, you're not happy with something we said. No. Okay, hold on. I'll say a bracha. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam. I've really been instructed to drink a lot more of this, and I should have been drinking all this time. Okay, let's see. Lemotemai. So Rav Shimi Barashi gives an example. In what case would a person not get lashed for using an Isser Hana, not derech Hana'athon? Shimi niach chilev shel shor niskal al gabi makatho shehu patur. His example is taking the chilev of a shor niskal. Why do you have to make a chilev and what shor niskal? What is shor niskal? Shor niskal means this ox has been sentenced to death. Ox doesn't have das, yes, but sometimes we sentence an ox to death. Why would we sentence an ox to death? Gore people. Or it was used for a terrible sin. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, terrible sin. So when it says here chelev of this shore, the entire shore is an Isser Hana. Why did it say chelev specifically? In this case, chelev is lav dafka, means fat from this animal. Okay? Any of its fat. Okay? Lav dafka, the part that we call chelev, the forbidden fat. Okay? Make sense? So you can't, well, any part of the animal. So why did it say chelev? Because it says al makatho. A person has some sort of wound on his body, and it turns out that beef fat and certain chemicals in the beef fat is good for wounds if you process it right. In this case, he just took some fat, whether or not it's actual chelev or not. Chelev sometimes means just, fat. Okay? Perhaps if they had slaughtered this animal kosher and hadn't done the avera, the animal would have been kosher. But because it's from a shor niskal, it's an Isser Hana. So he put it on his makah. Okay? He put it on his makah. That's not called derech hana'ah. He's not doing it the normal way of doing it, normal way of getting benefit from this. So he is not to be lashed for doing so. Okay? Sheminiach chilev shel shor niskal gabi makato shehu patur. There's Rashi sitting here. Let's see.
I didn't go with the definition of derech hana'ah. Yeah,
the normal way that. So that depends on what most people are doing and the way that they did it. How would they? This is something you find in your moisturizers, which you shouldn't be using, but whatever. You ever see stearic acid? What does stearic mean? Comes from steers. Okay? It's a derivative from beef fat. Okay? They get it from non-kosher animals. So when you isolate this substance, it's actually good for the skin. They add it to moisturizers and things like that. But if you were to just take the shor niskal, just got niskaled, okay? They pushed it off the cliff. Good job. They didn't have to stone it. It fell pretty good. So you walk over to the carcass and you start rubbing some of that chelev directly onto your makkah. That's not the real way of doing it. Perhaps you should be cleaning it off and cutting it, rendering it. There's something that needs to be done before you just put it straight up on there. Okay? That's at least the normal way of doing it. Similar to the way they used to cook meat. You don't have people aren't vultures. They're just going to attack raw meat and start eating it. That's the way I understood it.
So basically, the fact that it's raw.
Yeah. Okay. And it put it directly. Not only that, just take a piece of the animal and put it directly on the makkah. Okay.
And if we're saying that it's cooked.
The right process, there is a process to make the chalev of behemoths or the shore proper to put on the wound. So do a good job and get the right result.
Then you would get malchus.
Yeah. And then a person would get malchus for such a thing. Okay? But in this case, it's an Isser Hana, and he did it wrong. We're going to see, hopefully we'll get to this, 2 daf later, it says even olive oil, there's a way to do it. Normally you put olive oil on things, and it's a refuah or it's a whatever, but if the olives weren't ready yet, has anybody ever squeezed olives? Okay? You see what comes out initially, right? Is that the stuff that you get in your, in your bottle from the grocery store? No. Yeah, there's this red-like substance that's on top. You can't just, I've done this before, squeeze an olive directly in your hands when you're way at the bus stop and it's cold and it's wintry and your hands are chapped, but that's not the same olive oil you get in the stores. There's a little bit more processing that needs to be done. Okay?
It says putter here.
Yeah, putter avo usser. Yeah, still usser. There's no heter here. Just means he's not going to get lashed. Why is he not going to get lashed? Because he's not getting kares for it. Putter means putter from kares and lashes. There's no case where he says he has a kares account there, but we're not going to give him lashes. We could give him the lashes to save him from the kares that he's incurred. Okay? Yeah. Well, what did you learn differently? Let's fight this out. Yeah.
The Rambam says that if you have a wound,
yeah,
and even it's ein bo sakana, it's mostly to put on a novishosudana.
Wait, which Rambam are you reading?
So there's Torah.
Yeah, hold on. I think I wrote a note here.
Hey,
yeah, okay, but what does he say about sakana?
It's not.
No sakana.
No sakana.
He says l'chadchila.
That's for the moon, or in the moon when you Shein is srapi b'shari surim elav sakana. Is man shein there nasa.
He's in shari surim, not yisurim, no.
But this man shein derech nasa. You can even read it, etc. Arizim mutter. Afila shalom lakim sakana. Gutzli kvali yakaran and pasuk. Here, Rambam holds this mutter because, and that's the example they bring, because it's you. If you were to use the chaylev for another kind of hana, I don't know what, another kind of hana, not for putting it on
a wound. Yeah, you can't putting it directly on the wound is just weird. That's not
because the wound is a medical issue, in this rocky type of thing. It's different from other type of hana. Anyway.
Okay, well, we're going to get to that. We will address that soon. Okay, we haven't got to the bottom line yet. Now, this is not agreed upon, by the way. There's going to be arguments now. Okay, let's see. You have to tell me when we have to stop. Okay. What line are we up to? That's what Rav Shimi says. Okay, Rav Shimi says. Remember, you look in the Gemara over here. You have Rabbi Abahu says, "Kol yisurim ba'Torah ein loken elena ela derech hanasan." L'mauti mai is Rav Shimi's proposal. Okay, there's going to be what to argue here. Okay, let's see. Idmar nami Amar Rav Acha Bar-Avi Amar Rav Asi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hidia chelav shel shorin is kal agabi makatho patur lefisha kol isurim b'Torah ein lo kina lehem erla derech hanathon. Okay, still forbidden to do this. Can't use shor in this skull, but he's not going to be punished because not derech hanathon. Just like to point out, he's quoting Rambam. Rambam's talking about what you could do l'chachila. Okay, Rambam's talking about what you can do. Here they're saying someone did, and is he to be punished or not? Okay, what? Just pointing out here, this is someone did it. This is after the fact. We're talking about the punishment. Okay, hiniach chelev shel shor niskal agavi makatho patur lefi shekel isurim shabatura ein lo kina lehen ela derech hanathon. Okay, but apparently he's got some sort of hana in this case, but it's not derech hanathon. Okay, once again, he's not talking about what he should have done beforehand. He's talking about what happens after.
So what are you up to?
It says the next line. Itmar nami Amar Rav Acha bar Avya Amar Rav Asi Amar Rabbi Yochanan.
Structure here. Hitmanami means we're bringing a proof to say what Rav Shimi just said.
It says that someone else said something along similar lines.
Proof that he's right.
Yeah. Amar Rabbi Zera Afana nami tanena. We've also taught Ein Sof Ginat Bar-Hayim Mishum Orla Ella Al Hayod Seimin. No. I'm sorry. It's just the next line of the Gemara. Yeah.
Before you go to the next line of the Gemara, what's happening here? We're made a statement that Kol Yisur Torah and Lokim Aleim Aladerech Hanoah. If you're going to get Malchus, it's only if you do it in the normal way of getting Hanoah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So,
then they brought an example.
So let's read Rashi.
Someone's back here. Example of Chaleb.
Yeah.
And then we bring a statement that supports Rav Shimi.
Yes.
Okay.
So Rashi says the example of Chaleb, for example, Ein derech hanato ela ba'avara v'limshoach oroth v'lo l'refua kol sheget ochel Chaleb chai. Okay. So he says Rashi thinks that there's no way you could even put Chaleb on a makkah to begin with. That's not, even though a person thinks it's a refuah. Okay. The real way derech hana for Chaleb is to use it for treating your leather. Okay. So Rashi is basically saying there's no way you could have gotten hana from this directly on the skin. There's no refuah from it. Okay, that's why. Yeah, that's what Rashi uses Chaleb. See, you see, do you have the Rashi there?
Rashi is saying the normal use of Chaleb is for tallow or for rubbing the skin.
The low refuah
way of using. For that, you would get malchus.
But if you put it on your skin,
get malchus.
Because you know why? Because it's not normal even. Using it straight up isn't it?
It works. It's fine. People normally don't use it for that. You don't get malchus the same as ochel.
Wait, hold on a second. Ein derech hana also, right? And not for refuah. You'd imagine that people have tried this before for refuah. Why is it? Because people just decide, no, we're not going to use chalev for refuah? That I don't think that's the case. It's because it doesn't really do the job. If something did the job, then people would have been doing it for thousands of years, right?
If they would.
Yeah, it's
and the Gemara makes the assumption that it can be done, that you can use the chalev for the makkah, but the problem is it's not the norm.
But it also says he's putter. No, it says he's putter because he shouldn't be doing it. He shouldn't be using shor and niskol anything, right?
What the halacha is saying is you're permitted to do it.
I don't think so.
It says putter, and we learned in the Rambam that putter there means mutter.
No, putter doesn't mean mutter according to that. No, that's not what it means here.
Take a look at the Rambam. And hey, ches and yisod.
Okay. So okay. Well, okay. We'll look at that. We'll look at that next on Tuesday. But I'm trying to say here that it doesn't seem to be what Rashi is saying in the Gemara. The Gemara is assuming that everything here is forbidden l'chatchila, and the only question is, what is the penalty? Sometimes there's a penalty, sometimes not. And because not derech hana asan, and it's not a normal thing that people are doing, it doesn't work. My taina is that if somehow this could work, people would have done it. Okay, there weren't a lot of technology. If you had a makkah, people came up with all sorts of ways of treating it. If this had some utility, people would have been doing it. That would have been the derech. Yeah, if there was something that could help, so they would have used it. They had havamina that it could work.
So if I have a pill, that's pure chometz.
Yeah,
right? Can you take on Pesach?
It depends really. What is that pill? Is it?
It's a pill to help you.
I don't know. Help me do what? Depends. What's my situation? And what do you mean by chametz? Has it been bottled from chametz? So it's
Chol Moed Pesach.
Yeah, Chol Moed Pesach is a Tylenol pill that no longer has anything to it, taste to it. If it's been, let's say, neutralized in taste, then with regards to the chametz, so we'd say that it's no longer chametz. If it was in a state of no longer chametz, now you have the achshaveh problem. Okay. Are you getting benefit? If you remember that whole rule about denatured alcohol, the denatured alcohol can actually technically kill someone. But if he achshaves it, he says, well, I enjoyed it going down, So now he made it forbidden again, right? So this pill, it would depend if there's some way to get some enjoyment out of it. So there's an achshaveh. But if really it was made of chametz, but it's been totally dechametzatized because it's no longer, well before Pesach, it was no longer tasty. It wasn't considered a meichel anymore. So technically speaking, maybe you could ingest it on Passover. You could own it on Passover and you could do it. I know Rabbi Blumenkrantz doesn't like that, but there are those who permit it. Is that what you wanted to get at?
Basically, but you're telling me it's no longer chametz. Here it's
Yeah.
still considered chaylev.
Yeah. There's nothing that made it not chaylev or unedible or whatever. If the Gentile would have picked this thing up and roast it, it might even taste pretty good. It's fresh. What are they calling me? Is it possible there's someone who's not logged in and he's trying to get in touch with me here? Okay, we'll speak to them later. Yeah. Kind of crazy.
What we're saying is that there has to be she'eno derech hanosam, that there are people who use it not in the normal way. Not that they never do it. You're saying if they never used it, then they don't.
I'm trying to say that if let's say there was a havin, the chaylev has to be used, yes.
And therefore it could be used for other types of things.
It would be used mostly for one thing because that's what it was good for. If it was any good for,
she says it's normally used for tallow and for
the leather, yeah.
That's the normal.
The lola refuah.
But I'm using it for my arm.
Yeah, refuah. So my point is,
they never did that.
I'm saying that if the reason the derech for something is what it is because people found out that that's what works. He says it's like eating ochel chaylev chai. Okay, trying to use this directly on your makkah in its current state is not something that really has any hana from it. It doesn't really work. Don't do that. We've had experience. We have enough.
If a chain of chai,
you'd be putter. Yeah.
And if a person used the refuah, he wouldn't get malchus.
Yes, because it's not derech. Yeah. So what's the argument? It doesn't mean it's permissible.
Okay, that's a question you look in the Rambam.
Yeah, we're going to look in that soon. Okay. Let's see. Next line. So Rabbi Zera said, "Afanan nami taninon ein sofkin et harba'im mishum orla ella ahayotze min hazeitim." Okay. With regards to orla, what is orla? Orla is another iser hana, correct? And orla is the fruit from the tree in the first 3 years. Can't be using it. It's actually kind of interesting where the Rambam actually brings it up. It's not in Zroim. Rambam brings the laws of orla and ketem kerem revai in the laws of that's what it says. It's a meiser sheni, right? And then to actually say, and by the way, you're not allowed to eat the orla. He includes in machal asuros. Okay, it's like you have to jump back and forth. So it says here that what's going on is he is squeezing the grapes or the olives of the orla, and then using that for his own purposes, and he's ingesting it basically. And the forbidden is that which comes out of the fruits, right? You're actually using the fruits. The elu mitutim teinim v'rimonim lo. Yeah.
If I eat the seitzim and the anovim from an orla,
yeah.
And if I use the liquid that
comes out of them. Ela yotze. So you'd only get punished for eating grapes, the olives, or any fruit, or yotze. When it comes to the juice, if I juice the grapes and the olives, same prohibition. I would get punished for using that grape juice.
But it actually doesn't say it.
Well, it says sofkin is arbon.
It's only chayiv if he takes the yotze in the azesi.
Yeah.
Meaning only the liquid that comes from that. Am I over? Not on the. In this case, it's talking about liquids. Because it's trying to talk about liquids. We already learned that if I eat any fruits of orla, that's forbidden. I'm going to get punished for that. Now it's talking about juicing. If I juice my orla fruits, it depends on what I juice. There's two fruits that the isser is the same. That is, I'll be punished for eating the juice. The fruit itself
is forbidden. Everybody goes in. Forbidden. And now we're talking about.
And now the liquid that comes from that.
And now the liquid that comes from that, actually, if you look, I have 7 varieties growing in my garden that I planted just 2 years ago. olives, grapes, strawberries, dates, and pomegranates. Let's throw in apples just to keep it balanced, right? So all those I can't eat. However, if I juice all of them, each one its own vat, only the olives and the grapes carry a punishment of malchus. But the apple juice and the pomegranate juice and the date juice, etc., so I'm not going to be punished for eating those. Why? Well, it is still forbidden, yes. Okay, still forbidden. Okay, lo, my taimo, la mishum delo ka'achiluhu derech hanathon. Isn't it because that's not the normal way of drinking them? Well, what's derech hanathon? Even this is not considered derech hanathon. Making apple juice and pomegranate juice, that's already abnormal. Okay, people don't even drink that. Amar le Abaye, well, Rabbi is going to disagree. He says, "Bishlama yashbinam peri gufa delo ka'achile derech hanaso shapir." If this teaching had been talking about eating fruits in an abnormal way, maybe you'd be correct. Elohacha mishum dezeba almahu. The reason these other fruit juices, a person is not lashed for them, is because they are not considered the real juice. That's just something that came out, sweat that came out of the fruits. This is comes up in a lot of other sugyos. Basically, the only real fruit juice is olive oil and grape juice. Every other fruit juice isn't considered something superior. You've actually ruined the fruit. It was bori priyates, and now it's just a shahakol. It's just fruit sweat. And so they say that nafkamina, shmita. You're supposed to juice the olives and grapes from shmita. That's how you're supposed to eat them. But if you do that to your apples and oranges, you're destroying it. You're wasting the shmita fruit. The Chazon Ish classically said that, what did the Chazon Ish discover in Palestine when he got there? They have large orange groves. Okay, and they're using those oranges to make orange juice. That's what the point of the crop is. So nowadays, with their oranges and apples and other things that we juice them, it would be the same din as grapes and olives with regards to Shemitah and this din of Orla and even on Shabbos. Why? What's the halacha on Shabbos? The only Isser Doraisa of malacha of squeezing out juice applies to olives and grapes. The halacha books say, but if you're squeezing out apples and pomegranates, Isser D'Rabbanan only. The Chazon Ish now has opened up the window that would now become an Isser D'Oraisa. Can we continue? Because there's
time.
Oh, come on. Okay. Let's see if there was questions coming in here. I don't see questions in the chat, so we will pick this up right where we left it off, and we're also going to do our homework for next time because we've been ordered to do so. So see you all later. Be good. Have a good week.